and a very special guest. His name's Stu Webb, a victim, but also a fighter of the Bush crime family and the very nasty, incredibly satanic, cruel, and, practically alien to all humankind, Illuminati. Stu.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world.
Hey, it's the AllDayLive show tonight, and today I'm WillPWilson. I produce and I host this show, AllDayLive, have for 12 years now, as well as I've helped co-produce shows with other people here at Seattle Community Media, which used to be Scan TV, and that was with Don Gron and Patricia Shoup, various shows that they produce. Call for Investigation is one of them, Truth versus News, always pursuing truth, and who knows what else, because we keep producing so many TV shows, we've lost count. But anyway, we have Stu Webb tonight. I am looking forward to this because we've got the honor of having the legendary Chip Tatum, who came back to life not too long ago. But that's another story altogether. And we're going to bring up different types of information, such as, like, Stu, you're going to report a little bit about recall petitions, how that may work here as we are on the verge of whatever we have to do kind of thing. And Stu, it's good to hear you. Chip Tatum, it's good to hear you. And Veterans Today, by the way, you can find a lot of information from them. They both are columnists there. Am I right?
Sure, that's true.
Yeah. And I know that one of the other things is, Chip, you were mentioning that this information about Russians and Chinese here, that you said they're always here. Now, that's another story altogether. But what is it? I mean, the State Department works with foreign military here quite a bit.
Oh yeah, we have status of forces agreements with several foreign countries, and we train actively train with foreign nationals, with foreign militaries on U.S. soil. Have for years and years.
Interesting. Well, see, these are things that this independent media, before it's news, even Steve Quayle mentioning the reports coming that people are seeing lots of foreign troop military training here in this country at this time. And, it's people don't know. I mean, okay, that's protocol. But I see a bankruptcy of our country occurring right now. How is it that, what are they going to do with all these foreign troops here? I mean, after the country is bankrupt, which in a sense it already is, but that's another story.
Isn't Steve Quayle some talk show host who became a preacher and then became a prophet?
Yeah, he covered a lot of stuff, basically.
I know all about him. I was being facetious here. Quayle has no source of intelligence. He does not have a direct pipeline. You're talking to two people that have the direct pipeline. And with that said, let's let Gene touch on about these foreign troops in this country and about the fact of what's going on with Russia, because he doesn't have much time. He has a meeting he has to be at. Go ahead, Gene.
Thank you, guys. There's a lot in the news today, and we're all watching it about the Russian occupation in the Ukraine. But let me explain something to you. Let's take it back a little bit, back to my days, back to the 80s and 90s. During the 80s, when the USSR existed, Ukraine was part of the USSR. And the Russians thought of the Ukrainians as the country bumpkins. Now, they thought of them as that because the Ukraine was a huge agricultural area, and they had split languages. They have mixed languages within Ukraine, and Russia had built several large military bases there. Another thing to think of, in 1991, after Russia had fallen, after the USSR had broken apart, and Ukraine in 1991 became an independent state, Crimea has a small peninsula and a naval base that is only 2.8 miles from motherland Russia. So that's a huge issue right there. Now, here we have Putin, and he has found the opportunity. And when the Ukraine left the Soviet Union, the presidents following on, naturally they put spies over there. Naturally, they tried to cause unrest and try to get things, a little turmoil going to try to unseat the governments that were there. But let's turn it around. That's Putin and the Ukraine, the Soviet Union, and now Russia and an ex-Soviet Union satellite state. Let's look at it if it happened to us. Let's say in 1991, Texas decided to leave the United States. So they leave, and they become the independent Republic of Texas. And the President of the United States, don't you think that he would put people in there, try to cause unrest, and when unrest finally does boil up to the point that there's a little bit of friction, and say the president of that independent state of Russia is chased out of, or independent state of Texas is chased out of Texas, don't you think that we would hurry to put our troops on that soil and try to bring Texas back into the Union? Oh, yes, we would. Why? Because it borders our country. It's militarily speaking, it would be a crime not to try to bring it back in. Only because of logistically, here you have a independent nation, a new independent nation, who might get alliances with the East, with China or Russia or other countries, or in Texas, in the point of Texas, most likely with Israel, with the way things are going there these days. But certainly that would happen. So now we have to go back and look at Putin. It would be a crime in his position not to try to bring the Ukraine back into the Union. Has he done something wrong there? Well, I think he's done a majestic maneuver militarily. No shots fired, and he has the Crimea Peninsula. I mean, that's a maneuver that the United States hasn't been able to do in centuries. We always go in. We make bomb runs. We use shock and awe. We never just walk in and take it over without a shot fired. That's my take on what's going on over there. Is it going to lead to a world war? No, I don't think so. Look, sanctions are going to get put against, or the president here is trying to put sanctions against Putin. European Union's not going to hear of it because he pretty well supplies all of their heat. So they may huff and they may puff, but when it comes right down to it, nothing's going to happen. And if it weren't to happen, look at the threat that he has back to the United States. I'm going to dump all these bonds that I own. So, the President of the United States is in a position where he has to huff and puff. Kerry has to go over and make his presentations just to make the world know that we aren't a paper tiger.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
That's my position in that. I don't think we're looking at anything happening over that at all.
Well, it sure makes people feel more comforted, I'm sure, that, with the stuff that the independent media is putting out there right now. But then again, we don't know what's really true, and then their dependent media, whatever you want to call that, that's most of the people depend on, in a sense, their commercial media. This Fukushima thing, why isn't there more reports about the fact that I have people here, scientists, that can take Geiger counters here locally and take it to a puddle, and the puddles are nuclear here in Seattle. And
sure, and what's not funny about that, but even when the government does recognize it, they say that the levels are so low that it's non-negligible for health. Listen, they told me the same thing. In 1977, there was a uranium spill, uranium U-308 in Colorado. A tractor trailer carrying, I think it was about 20 tons of yellow cake uranium was driving from Wyoming to deliver the yellow cake uranium to Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I believe it was. On the route, they passed right by a place where I was stationed, a little place in the high plains of Colorado, a top secret base called OLAB Lamar. We had AT&T put up signs that said AT&T all over the place, so they thought we were an AT&T site, but we were actually several floors of a top secret communications installation assigned to Cheyenne Mountain in NORAD. But in the early morning hours, there was an accident. Horses ran out in front of this tractor trailer, and the tractor trailer crashed. The driver was unconscious, so he couldn't tell the police what was in it. So the police came to us because we were just right down the street and asked if we'd help with traffic control and help clean up all this dust, all this sand stuff that's laying all over. So we said sure, and we volunteered, and we went over there. And a week later, we found out it was uranium. They took us to Air Force Academy and checked us all out, and they said, oh, the levels are so small, it won't bother you at all. Let's push forward to this year. I had a wart that formed on where the holes in my boot were, the air pockets of the boot, in about 3 years later. And that wart kept growing and growing, and they kept treating it as a wart. Earlier this year, the dermatologist looked at that and said, son, that has never been a wart. That's squamous cell cancer. And I told him what happened. He said, well, there's no doubt it came from that dangerous uranium spill you were walking in. So do I trust what the government says? Oh, heavens no. They're doing it to keep themselves out of any liability, and that's it.
Well, you saw in Japan today that it was posted that there's no one responsible for the Fukushima worldwide. I mean, it's a death event of the whole planet, and nobody's responsible. How does that work?
Right.
Well, I brought up the fact that you have Brown's gas, hydroxy gas, which you can go on YouTube still and learn about it. I worked with Dr. Brown 20 years ago to develop it. I helped him write his patents and whatnot. And I worked with several of my colleagues up here. We filed several patents of what it could do. And one of the things that was verified by 40 universities in order for us to file our patent was that the plasma, the minute it comes into contact with nuclear material, any nuclear material, the material becomes non-nuclear. But then again, you can also use it to transmute the elements, but you're not supposed to know that either. But I've sent reports to them. They've no reply. And then I mentioned I've sent it to Hanford here as well. This massive 500,000 people have died from that already. And so we have answers and remedy, but who's responsible for not using the remedy? What am I wrong to ask about that? I mean, nobody's responsible. That makes a fact. Well, who profited from the whole thing? Where's the money go? You know what I'm saying? Am I wrong? Somebody's
billions and billions and billions in cleanup. Oh boy!
What?
Right
Billions?
Right in the politicians and the very few contractors who are permitted to go in and clean that up. Very, very few. I mean, we have government contracts like to build Fort Drum, New York. There were very few contractors really allowed there to build on it. So, these huge government cleanup contracts and construction contracts go to a very few companies. And it's interesting to get into the background of who are really involved in those companies. Well,
yeah, but you understand, they can't really clean it up. They're not using any real reality to clean it up. So we provided evidence. They don't even. There's ways that they should have immediately used the Brown's gas technologies, or got a hold of Colonel Tom Bearden or Dr. Phil Callahan, University of Florida, head of interferometry research for the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. They don't care if it's cleaned up. The construction companies are going to say that they've done all that they can do. The cleanup companies are going to say that they've done it, and then who's to counter that? All they want to do is collect their paycheck.
I know, but in the meantime, we're killing off all the sea life, literally all of it, in both oceans, by the way. And the contamination is probably I estimate about 130 years from now, all the trees here in the Northwest will be dead from the nuclear fallout that will basically kill all of them.
And so will the people who were supposed to have cared, so they don't care.
Yeah.
As long as they have their money in the bank.
And no planet to live on. How's that work?
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's obvious they don't care about their children, their grandchildren. That's obvious with our monetary and
Stu,
Social Security system.
Stu, you said
Listen, guys, I have to run. I have my meeting coming up here in a few minutes, and it's with our friends across the Great Sea in China.
Well, yeah. Thank you.
Good luck with your meeting, Chip, and thank you very much for coming on with us.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chip. Hey, Stu, real quick.
Yes.
So we're in a circumstance, a worldwide extinction event, and they don't even care about.
We're into something bigger than what I can even discuss. But let me continue, if I may, for a moment on this Russian situation. Up on my website, there's a story. I haven't been posting much in the past probably 10 days. I have tons of radio and TV and other programs I've done. Some of yours aren't even on my website because I've been under massive attack to where they're trying to remove my site. And I've been investigating, and I've actually been able to do things without explaining too much detail. And I've got a worldwide network of stooges, I call them, worldwide network that should have the story up by tomorrow evening, identifying the servers where all these attacks upon people's websites and attacks upon their, well, I'll put it this way, to keep your search engine, as an example, on my site, to keep my search engine from revolving with the new software I put in a year ago, where it's capable to see on iPads and iPhones. My engine, there are the search engines such as Google and Yahoo and Microsoft should have revolved. Google did. Microsoft and Yahoo did not. And I have found out why now, because I'm being spammed consistently by the same network. It's part of Department of Homeland Security. It's partially Israeli intelligence, New World Order. And there are a bunch of their stooges inside our government that are on this payroll, punch buttons. Their computers are shooting from one computer to another. There's, I don't know how many. I'm going to have to go back and identify how many there are. There are probably about 50 of them, maybe more, worldwide. I've just about got my report done with proof and evidence where they have been attacking my site, trying to log into my site to affect my commerce. Each time they've tried to log in is a felony. And underneath the law, underneath this cyber terrorism, it's 20 years in prison, $250,000 fine for each event. I've got thousands of events that have occurred since mid-year. I've been tracking this for the past 8 days, 7 to 8 days, to put out a report on this where people can go in to their websites and be able to take these IP numbers, and they will be able to put a block on them until they, of course, come in with some new IPs and start all over again. But hopefully this will bring some attention on it, and maybe others will be able to track and start looking at this. Because this is just bizarre what they're doing to people. They're stealing people's donations. They're stealing people's commerce, money they're making off of products maybe that are alternative media, so on and so forth. This has been going on for quite some time, and I know it has been with me. And I've been tracking it since summer. In the past 8 days, I had to actually shut it down. I said, I'm tired of this. Something's wrong with the Microsoft search engine, Yahoo, since I've been able to identify and actually shut things down and stop what they've been doing by staying right there on top of it, about 20 hours a day. All of a sudden, Microsoft search engine's now revolved, and so has Yahoo. When you punch my name in, you'll find my internet site. You won't find a bunch of them and FBI stooges slandering me and defaming me and doing the different things. So I also want to get into something else, is that this Russian situation ties in with what's called Gladio. It ties in with this New World Order. It ties in with this Mossad. It ties in with this Daddy Bush crime syndicate, Israelis, that the Council of 13, the devil worshippers, and it ties in worldwide. Now, there's a story on my site. It's called Gladio, the gift that keeps on giving. It was written by Gordon Duff. I've talked to Gordon about this. He actually had me mentioned in the story when he gave me heads up. They pulled the story. It was written in another paper, And in the Mid-Eastern Outlook, I think is what they call it. Wait a minute, let me get the name. It's called the Journal Neil Organ, the New Eastern Outlook. It's called. It's Russian in English, and Gordon is a Veterans Today editor. But every so often he'll publish some of his work in this, and as well as Press TV. But he wrote a distinctive article, and a very perfect article. And Will, are you there and able to get on my website and see that article?
It's on here right now. We've got it in the background, Stu.
Okay, Gladio, the gift that keeps on giving. Would you click on that link? It's in the left column there. It's
right.
About, I think, third or fourth story down.
I'm looking at U.S. Intel breaking news.
Yes, right below in the left column. There's 3 columns.
Got it.
From the block at the top, the left column.
You got it.
Okay. And you just scroll down until you see the link. It says Gladio, the gift that keeps on giving.
Gladio, the gift. Okay, I've got the article right here.
Okay. Read the article. It's very short. Would you read that?
Yeah.
My eyes are dead from being at a computer all day. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, we are seeking it today. The Ukraine, Syria, across Africa, more than 24 instances have been cataloged. Highly organized armed groups, multiple. Is this it? Is this the right article? Stu?
Yes, I'm here.
Am I reading the right one?
Yes, this is it. This is by Gordon Duff.
All drawn upon a need or at need, ready for any mission: riot, revolution, subversion, terror attacks, assassinations. Actions are ruthless. Their allegiance is a matter of conspiracy theory. They never take credit, never issue manifestos, have no website. Gladio operatives run entire nations. Republic of Georgia, certainly, Albania, Kosovo, South America, Bolivia, Paraguay. There's always a political theme, though vague and ethereal. The signs are there. Western intelligence agencies, secret societies, manipulation of commodity markets, currencies, and sovereign debt. The group is called Gladio, after the Latin term gladius, the short word used in the Roman arena. And those who have heard of Operation Gladio have a vague notion of what NATO-sponsored anti-communist program it is, or it was during the 80s and 90s, somehow went wrong. The version told the public is actually quite amusing. So, supposedly Gladio was established after the war by SHAPE Supreme Headquarters, SHAPE in capital letters, Allied powers of Europe, where one to assume the mysterious Gehlen, G-E-H-L-E-N, organization, CIA, Gladio, were one in the same. The same roots, same financing, same lack of accountability. One might be a very strong footing. What isn't amusing is the fact that Gladio is still operating. When Anders Breivik, the worst mass murderer in history, admitted to being a Gladio operative, we were surprised. All signs were there. Intelligence services and police agencies helping him every step of the way. At prison even. And not just privilege, but periodic forays. Let him loose to do it again, I guess. And then when he feels he needs for a breath of fresh air. I heard they did that also with several people, even like Charles Harrelson. Remember him? That killed Judge Woods, who was residing over the Bush CIA guns for drugs. Oh, and he happened to work for Ruby.
In the Kennedy assassination. Go ahead.
Yeah. His son got promoted to movie star. Anyway, so supposedly Gladio was established. It wasn't, in fact, that it's still operating. Okay, other Gladio signature operations are seen at Sandy Hook, Boston Marathon, Fort Hood, the anthrax attacks, DC Sniper. These and so many more nameless, mysterious, lone gunmen, gave them lots of help. Gladio operatives may well have killed 8,000 in Iraq last year alone. I bet it was a lot more than that. I mean, a lot more. They wouldn't just kill 8,000. That's not enough. Using mind control and psychotronics and blasting us with lasers, and they punch holes through our brains and putting chemical lobotomy in our food with their operatives that come in our houses. They did that to me. I'm sure they did that to you too, Stu. Anyway, so the signs of Gladio worldwide. Gladio didn't die, a few Italians showed trials. The real Gladio is more than something quite different. Perhaps behind the simplest terms, sinister and conspiratorial. Really? You're kidding. Anyway, the French used the term ouvre, or if I said that right, O-U-V-E-R-A-G-E. I don't know, you guys out there spell it. Anyway, to describe something that is exposed or unearthed, Gladio is that extent an ouvrage. That's about as good as I get. And a look beneath a glimpse, a rare opportunity to view the underpinnings. Shoot, how low can you get? Is there anything underneath them? Anyway, so Gladio is fed not just by greed, but powerful mythology, mind control. I said that, but that's not in this. Combining a variety of religions, occult philosophies, there is only one. Obviously, they worship Satan, and well-organized Wikipedia pages, which if you put one on, or I do, they take them off immediately. How does that work? But anyway, and why did the NATO choose proto-Christian mysticism as a result or a basis for terror organizations? Yeah, right. Well, are we not supposed to even notice? Hello? And how does an organization established and funded by NATO suddenly turn bad with no reason whatsoever, and then no reason given anymore ever asked for? But hey, Stu, today, you know, they just came out with that CIA guy that said it wasn't planes that flew into the World Trade Center, by the way. Well, what was it? I mean, obviously holographs, right? Just like you said. Anyway, and the aircraft numbers for the aircraft, the planes were still flying. Now, how could they go fly into buildings and still have the same numbers of planes that are still flying? And how does that work?
Very true. It's been that way. But stay on track with the article here for a moment.
We're almost finished. Not only is there evidence Gladio was stopped, quite the opposite. It was thrived, expanded. It reached massive, did a lot more in power. Incredible. Just faced with Stalin's threat, real or perceived, to take over Europe through military force, NATO decided it would create stay-behind networks to hold some portion of Europe safe, while the United States and perhaps Canada prepared for a new D-Day landings in order to push back the Red Horde. Due to this, NATO recruited troops steeped in esoteric religious beliefs, ostensibly Freemasons, and other groups as well, including the Thule Society, the Jesuits. You know, anyway, during the 1980s, the White House became a center for occult worship. Reagan's followers of astrology and the Bush family tied to dominionism, heretical Judeo-Christian death cult that deeply infiltrated the military service academies, eventually took over America's nuclear command structure. It is the removal of these dominionists that we hear about as a discipline failures among every rank of America's nuclear forces. Okay, that makes sense. And in and around Washington, the party circuit, long known for special guests only, debauchery, typically cocaine, prostitutes, child raping is really probably what's more about. And for those invited upstairs, it was no longer an orgy, but something much darker, endlessly stranger, closely resembling scenes from director Stanley Kubrick's last movies, Eyes Wide Shut. Anyway, now his right after, before he even finished it, his eyes were permanently shut. The rumors for more reliable conspiracy theories told at a prayer breakfast and Christian evangelical functions featuring satanic rituals, institutionalized child abuse, and even human sacrifice. In 2013, word leaked at the upcoming child sacrifice to be held in Denver in the summer solstice, an event that was to conclude key Washington power brokers and America's elitists. The story then published is seen as a wild conjecture. Until 2 days prior to the event, police stopped the kidnapping of a 2-year-old in Oklahoma City, a few hours' drive away, prior to being killed in a shootout, the kidnapper, with the police. The kidnapper admitted the child had been taken for a satanic sacrifice to be held at the summer solstice. It was reported 2 weeks before. Yeah, and according to...
That was my story that appeared up there on Veterans Today, but they, for some reason, this publication took my name out. But go ahead and read the rest.
Yeah, and the girl pointing a knife at her, police say they quickly did something.
There's a link there they can click on and see the TV, about the kidnapping.
Yes. The public Gladio, 1985, NATO military intelligence officers working on war plans for the Middle East, part of a 25-plan set intended to cover every imaginable contingency, were approached about including Gladio into their tactical operations response scenarios. Anyway, so Gladio had already been credited with terrorist attacks, including 1978 kidnapping, murder of Aldo Moro, the then Prime Minister of Italy. Even then, the U.S. Army had no difficulty in asking that an established terror organization be included as a force multiplier in a military operations. Anyway, hey Stu, why don't we get back to this? I'm just going to do a real quick break. Is that all right? And we'll be right back. I'll squeeze this in real quick. All right, everybody, hold on, and we're going to just take about a 3-second break here. Hold on.
This is the reason why we got the men back together.
My mic's on here. And yes. Anyway, so we took our quick break here, and thanks, Stu. So now we're going to get back to that article.
And the article. It's very important that we read this. It ties in with what's going on in Russia.
Look it up. Now you can hear me. Okay. So, in 1990, the European Parliament called for a comprehensive investigation of Gladio, citing it as a terrorist group run by intelligence agencies tasked with intimidating and interfering with European governments. Well, that's getting pretty good here. I better keep reading or I won't know what I'm reading. In 1990, the European Parliament called for a comprehensive, we got that. 24 years later, they are alive. Wait a minute, I think I just missed a part. Intimidating interfering governments, okay, that group. 24 years later, they're alive and well, intimidating and interfering in the Ukraine, while the 1990 investigation has yet to get off the ground. Okay, they've been there a while, obviously. Well, they got nothing else to do. They stole trillions of dollars. They might as well do something like with that. I'm sure, what else are you going to do with all that money? Anyway, so I got various links here. I think that's the article, Stu. Glad he had me read it.
What has happened is the New World Order. This is once again Daddy Bush and the Illuminati, this Council of 13, the devil worshippers. So they're controlling all the wealth of the world now, right, and control everybody, and we're all slaves to them. These are the men that have taken over the economies of the world in 35 years with drug money and the theft of everybody's money and their homes, and creating paper mortgages out of thin air that didn't exist, that brought the financial collapse, etc. They run Al-Qaeda. They did the attack on Oklahoma City building, the bombing. They did 9/11 according to U.S. intelligence sources, and it's right in a report last September that specifically says this. And they're the ones over causing problems in Syria. They're the ones that are shooting the Syrian people, fighting against the Syrian government, keeping a revolution going where, 100,000 have now died. They have no they have no thought against taking human life. They don't live by any of the 10 Commandments whatsoever. They think that the 10 Commandments and the God, that they are the gods, because it's the fallen angels, in my opinion, the aliens, and that they possess humans. And the 12 at the top who run this planet right now, and they're the 12 commissioners, they call them, or the council. This means like the mob. It's the mob, period. But they're all devil worshippers. And what we're all up against is this. And that's what Putin sees, and that's the reason Putin went in, because they were causing so much chaos and terror over there. He knew the place was going to come apart, and that then the New World Order and this Jerusalem as his capital would be in charge and which they've done to America. They've overthrown America with the stranglehold, with AIPAC and the Mossad and the ADL and the JDL and the Simon Wiesenthal Center, all this espionage that they've done, because these people are not even Jewish, okay, the ones that control Israel. And the true Jews, according to that genome study and proof and evidence, is that 8 out of 10 of the Palestinians are the true people, the true bloodlines of Israel from the original tribes. And the ones that are there in Israel today have all come from Europe, and they are not the bloodline. There's only, or 97% of them are not. They're bent on New World Order. They've got those people fooled. They've got the American people fooled. They got people fooled worldwide. All they are after is everybody's natural resources, all these countries. They're after gaining the rest of the wealth, which they basically have now, of this planet. But the bottom line is, what they're after, and this is the reason Putin has shut it down, to try to keep the thing peaceful and to get the thing reestablished without them blowing up or killing, should we say, another million people over there in the Ukraine and so forth. That's what Putin has done. I respect him for what he's done. That's probably one of the reasons the U.S. got down to it. None of our business is part of their former Soviet Union. And this is something that's probably the best thing that could happen to reestablish things there without a bunch of deaths. So we have to look at it on the positive side. Where the media, you see John McCain, who's sold out to this New World Order, Senator John McCain. I call him the Israeli senator. They aren't Israeli senators. They're New World Order senators. And you see him huffing and puffing and carrying on in the past few days over all this. You see him supplying drugs. I mean, he's making money off the drugs out of Afghanistan, keeping a war alive. He's Senate Armed Services Committee chairman. He was drilling Hagel and Dempsey today, both good guys. In such a way, it's just bizarre. I couldn't even watch it. I saw a couple minutes of it yesterday, but they did it again today. And it's all over pet projects of the New World Order boys and their weapons. It was what was being discussed as far as budget, what's to be cut and what's not to be cut, etc., out of the military. And the problem is these people benefit. And you have these people run in Washington, D.C. that call themselves your congressmen and your senators, and they're profiteering from these wars, and they're profiteering from the drugs, and they're profiteering from all this money from this New World Order crowd called AIPAC, the American-Israeli Pact, that's in place to fund them. And remember, folks, when they leave office, or if they get voted out of office, which very seldom happens because they control the voting machines, they can convert those funds that they have, those campaign contributions, to personal income. All they have to do is pay tax on it, personal income tax, and they can convert it. So if they got a war chest built up to $30 million, that's their payments, and that's how they get paid off now, through these PACs, mainly AIPAC. And so all of them are sitting there with 20, 30 million bucks a piece in the bank. So they're going to vote any way that they're told to vote. And this is the problem that we have. And it's worldwide. And it really comes back to this Gladio concept, Gladio operation, extermination, go in and wipe out countries, go in and cause revolutions in countries, go kill people, and the whole bit. Well, I look at it, what Putin has done is probably the proper thing in shutting it down. Mm-hmm. Now, you see the opposite in all these discussions and all these stooges, New World Order stooges, all over TV in the past couple days. I just glanced at it for about 15 minutes a day, flipped the channels between CNN, Fox News, the Israeli Mossad. All the channels are only controlled by the same 12 men that run the world now. Now, with that said, what's being said and discussed and the consensus. So it's always about consensus. And who's making statements? Hillary Clinton, oh, I compare Russian Putin to Adolf Hitler, she says at a fundraiser. I mean, she's one of the biggest New World Order witch doctors that there is. She's a fourth-degree witch of a covenant of witches. Hillary Clinton is. And she wants to be your next leader, folks. She's mentally bent. She's involved in over 300 murders of people in Arkansas. I have a link up there. Just punch in Clinton's murders, Arkansas, Hillary Clinton murders, Bush murders, and you can see them.
Actually, I met some
drugs, guns, and everything.
Years ago, Stu, when I was working with Bob Lewis, we found that tied to Mina and Clinton's, over 3,600 people were murdered.
There may be closer to that. I have a list of about 300 up there.
That was.
And I'm aware of many others. I mean,
Secret Service.
They had me targeted. They've tried to murder me several times. I've been anthraxed. I've had rollover car crashes up 3 years ago. It's permanently got me on a temporary disability type situation, but I don't even collect it. I don't collect disability. I got a broken neck. I can't work. I can't go out and build stuff like I used to do. And before I got involved with Witch Doctor, I was subbing most of it. You know, after the first 5 years of doing it myself, and then when I meet her, my construction loans get cut off, not knowing that future daddy-in-law was a guy that owned all the banks with Daddy Bush. So, with that said, since then, I've pretty much done it myself, or subbed it when I got super busy. And right now, I'm basically out of business because there's not enough work in my area. One, to sub it. Two, you have to do it yourself. And I can't swing a hammer. If I do, I got vertebrae in the upper part of my back and my neck that start twisting in the whole bit that can cause a spinal cord problem. So I'll just put it that way. That's the reason I ask for contributions, you know, to do what I'm doing. I'm doing this 20 hours a day, trying to keep the people informed, trying to bring new information as well as the old, etc. But we're coming into a time frame that this New World Order is going to have to be stopped. And the only way that we're going to be able to stop it, I'm in agreement with several people. One of them is Preston James, Dr. Preston James, who's a Christian. Yep. He's a man of God. He believes in God. Yep. And, you know, I know that these so-called aliens are the fallen angels. People don't want to hear that, but they are. And you can pick up your Bible, and I'm not trying to play Bible thumper here because everybody has their belief in the way they want to think, okay? But God has shown that he's real to me. He hadn't shown his face, but believe me, he's shown me things through prayer that happened immediately that proved that he's there and he's real. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, bizarre things have occurred.
I know, I'm not supposed to.
And it's so far off the charts, it'd take me an hour to witness those facts. Yeah. But prayer binds up the enemy. And Dr. Preston James suggested the other day to me in a call, he says, Stu, if we could get 20 million people praying against them seriously every day, asking God to clean them out and to clean them up and to bind them up. Because remember, we have power and authority over the fallen ones, over the fallen angels, it says in the Bible. And those are the people that we're up against. They are possessed. They're humans at the top level that become so evil that they allow these fallen angels to actually possess them. I've been told by people inside intelligence that there's about 200,000 of them that they have identified, they believe, that is walking among us. Humans that are possessed by these fallen angels. Now, if the Bible's true, which I believe a lot of it is true, that there was a war in heaven, they were cast down here. We're here on a testing ground. Earth is our testing ground as humans. God created us later. And here we have power and authority over them, over the fallen ones that are down here. Well, if there was 1 million of them up there and a third of them were cast down, that's 333,000, which fits in close to what I've been being told for several years by people in the intelligence world, that they estimate that there's about 200,000 of them that are possessed by these aliens, they call them. Some call them fallen angels, depending on whether they believe in God or not.
Yeah.
So if we have this, and they're saying they have about 20 million cloned offspring of the same ones that have been possessed, and their generational Satanism, like the Bush family is and so forth, where it's the father keeps passing on that following one jumps from when one dies, jumps into the next, etc., and they've been here for thousands of years, then how many do we really have of the what's called the Nephilim bloodline, which it says in Genesis 6 of the Bible? How many do we have? I've been told there's 20 million of them among us. What do they want to do to the human race? They don't want to kill everybody. They want to change their whole race. They want to dispose of true humans, yes, but they want to change the whole race to bow down to them and worship them, not God. As long as there's faith in God, they cannot win. As long as we as humans have faith in God, whether it's Jesus Christ, which is my Savior, whether it's Muhammad or whoever your father is, your heavenly Father, as long as faith and prayer, and through that faith, exercising that faith by asking him to do it in your behalf. And he's shown me that you can cast out fallen angels, because I had one in my bedroom and he disappeared real quick right through the front door, and the door wasn't even on the hinges. If that can happen, and people can do these sort of things, we have power and authority over them, we could put a stop to them if enough people could come to understand this. But this is where people do not understand, because we have a whole generation out here of people that were brought up in divided homes. This was their plan. It wasn't the plan that started after World War II. The plan of God was always, the male, the female. He created Adam and Eve for a purpose. It wasn't George for Adam and Hillary for Eve, even though some people think that's okay. That's their business. God calls them sodomites. I'm just speaking a few, should we say, straight words right now.
Right.
Whether people like it, I offend you or not, I don't care. If God calls someone that claims to be gay a sodomite, he says they're demon-possessed is the reason they lay with the same sex, well, that's what the Bible says. I'm pretty much in agreement with you, because God's shown that he's real to me. So I'm never going to deny him, or I'm never going to deny what he has said.
Yeah.
We're all up against one evil cabal that's so far off the charts that nobody could even get a grasp of this.
I know.
And this is what people have to get a grasp of.
But
if we can get 20 million or more people starting to really pray against this evil and destroy this evil, God, take it off our planet and give the planet time to revolve and generations to come, we might have a chance.
Stu.
Otherwise, what we're going to see is we're going to see what they want to accomplish. They want a huge war. They want to kill off 2/3 of mankind in a war. They want a world war.
Real quick, I was going to mention Art Bell had his listeners visualize rain twice. Both times it was the biggest floods in history, and he had them just visualize Florida, visualize Texas after long droughts. And then George Norrie tried it 3 years ago, and 9 people drowned in Atlanta after a 4-year drought there. And then about some odd number of people who were in surgery, probably should have died, lived, and not only lived, but healed 5 times faster when people visually prayed. Visual prayer, and I've mentioned the human body is an infrared lens, and that's what we are. We're just simply lenses, and that the universe being slowed down light, which it is, just take a galaxy and put it between your hands like that. Now it's not so complex anymore. And just look down. You're right there, by the way, wherever. And
can't we clean up those oceans in the same manner that are contaminated?
We could use visual prayer to literally make it all disappear. Yeah, we could.
It isn't sitting around as a guru, sitting on a beach someplace, cross-legged, and saying and sitting there and saying, I visualize it. It's asking God to do it is the way that we get it done.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that there's actual scientific provable ways.
I know there's scientific proof to this.
Yeah, and it also, as I was going to mention, Stu, you're right. I tried in 2005. I tried to put a foundation together called the Worldwide Visual Prayer Network, and I set up and designed the website. But I had no money. I was homeless at the time, but still did it, and put a whole thesis together on it, why it would work and how. I tried to get people to wake up and see what I was trying to show them, but it just didn't do. I wrote probably 50, 60 news reports of it, this thing I tried to put together. No responses, nothing. Just like you and I don't get funding, right? We never get anybody. I never get anybody. We're gonna cover here afterwards with James Losser. We're gonna do a report on the illegal evictions going on here in Seattle, which is including illegal towing. And we'll get into that. James, by the way, what did you want? You had some input.
I wanted to bring up the fact that they have a 10-year plan to end homelessness in Seattle, and boy, they sure keep the wool over people's eyes real easy. I mean, like I say, they have a plan to end homelessness, but yet they keep impounding your vehicles. They keep citing you for traffic tickets, citing you for not having anybody, no insurance. The list can just possibly keep going on. But again, they have a 10-year plan to end homelessness, but there's more people sleeping outside in the streets. I mean, let's make some comments on the fact that there's just more people sleeping outside in the streets, but where does the 10-year plan to come in, and that can help out people get off the streets?
Remember in 2006, Gregoire was issued a $42 million grant to handle this homeless thing. And when we inquired as to where the money went, we got no responses. How does that work? Anyway, and she'd been attorney general, and then she was governor, and we found, and never, in 3 years, we tried to find out where that money went, and they would never, I mean, there's as much I could do being homeless, but I still tried. Other people.
Well, now the thing to do is when they don't answer you, you go to recallpetitions.com. You go take a copy of that off the internet. You watch the video. It tells you how to do it. You go to your Secretary of State's office and you file it, and you get volunteers to get out there and get the signatures to recall them.
Well, that sounds like you got to get signatures to do it, though, right? Well, this is
signatures are easy to get if you got enough people. You got volunteers. Then all of a sudden you got more people that volunteer. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And you start doing recalls. It's been effective in Colorado. 3 people were taken out, 3 congressmen, a congresswoman were taken out immediately. Immediately. 2 of them were recalled. The third one threw in the towel after she got a nice hefty $180,000 to $130,000 contribution from Bloomberg. She decided to throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm not going through the embarrassment of a recall, she said. But that wasn't what it was about. She wanted to keep her campaign money to convert it to personal income.
Yeah, well, if you go to Google search, you can type
She knew she was going out the door because she was a gun grabber.
Well,
it's like these people yelling and screaming over in Delaware right now about they're going to take your guns from you. Well, you need to pick up those recall petitions. You need to start recalling them and make sure you do keep your guns.
Right. Well, apparently
I wouldn't surrender my gun, and it's never going to happen in my state because there's too many radicals down here in Missouri that, we've got the strongest keep your gun law in the country, but we have this little New World Order governor called Nixon, and he's a Bush crime family syndicate stooge because Missouri, it happens to be, is the second largest financial capital in the United States. The first being New York City with Wall Street. The second happens to deal with Kansas City and its finance, and St. Louis. And it deals with O'Fallon, Missouri, home of Leonard Bellman and Daddy Bush's Citicorp, entity after entity after entity besides Citicorp, and all these other companies and entities that have been involved in all this financial fraud that they're sitting down there, and the ones that are holding the mortgages on everybody.
Yeah. Stu, we got about a minute and a half left. One last statement. Thank you. I'm greatly honored to have you here. Veterans Today, you can go read your columnist now with Veterans Today. I'll bring that up to veteran.
StuWebb.com. Find everything there. The stuff that goes on Veterans Today is in the middle column. And I want to thank you for having me again. Will, it's always my pleasure.
Yeah.
And you gentlemen have a good evening.
Thank you, Stu. We're greatly honored. Get you on again. And when are we getting Leo Wanna back on?
Leo is right now in heavy protection, and we can't get him on.
Oh, okay.
They want to murder him. The New World Order wants to get rid of him. But if a person wants to hear it, we have had him on, and it is on your site. And I do have another interview that's on my site. They're on my site as well. But if you punch in the search box, or if you go to your site, Will, or there's a couple other interviews that are in the right top column of my website.
Yeah.
With more extensive than what we did, a 2-hour interview with Leo.
Yeah.
Where I actually was asked to bring someone else on to give the patriotic woman the opportunity to drill, should we say, and ask the questions from a patriot's perspective of the bigger picture. So that occurred in that interview. rather than and a very knowledgeable woman, I might add, Remy
Right.
Lewis.
Well, let's work on this. We're going to get Gordon Duff on here too pretty soon, I hope.
Well, one of these days we will. And there was an interview with Gordon that we played on Monday. I believe Don played it. And it was about Alice Jones and about what he found about him playing stooge for the New World Order and DEPCA, the Israeli Mossad, running with the false flag operation story that they put out, not saying it was a false flag, but instead trying to point the finger and say it was real.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that was done Monday with or on
gotta go.
the show there on Seattle TV, so people might want to go to the archives there and listen to it as well. But
thanks, Stu. We got to get going.
Okay,
thank you a
you.
lot.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, and I'll have you and Gordon Duff on when you can get the Gordon Duff on with you, and I appreciate it. Thanks for All Day Live for this week. We'll see you next week. Stu, we'll have you on next week again. Thank you.
Okay, Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right. What was your name again?
Yes, Preston James.
Preston James. All right. And how did you find out about the Illuminati?
Oh, I suppose it goes back many years ago to clients I had that came in that were involved in the business that had told me of they didn't call them the Illuminati, they called them occult-linked organizations, and said it was a worldwide network related to the money changers, and that they had weird religious beliefs, and many of them did weird seances and human sacrifice and things. Of course, the first time you hear that, it's very incredulous. It's hard to process. But in the business that I was in, it wasn't my job to criticize people or try to challenge their stories. It's just to help them deal with the problems they have. But when you start hearing it a number of times over the years, and then you work with individuals that are harmed by these people, then after a while it starts sinking in. You find out that there is such an organization, that it has an invisible part to it, which is the secret occult organizations that are worldwide, these what they call the Masons, the Super Masons, the OTO. Most of the Masons know nothing, but when they get to the higher levels, they bring them into blood sacrifice groups like the OTO and other groups that are all related to various high-level organizations. And, of course, anybody that really studies this finds out that you have the secret part, and then you have the visible part. And the visible part really is what we have in Congress in the United States today. We have a gangster government that Congress has been compromised, taken over, and congressmen are blackmailed and what I call re-socialized to be under the control of these people. So it's much easier to see the handiwork of these people than it actually is to study them in person. Now, of course,
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. Jungles in the